Welcome to Board Game Homies, where a group of friends play, review, and share about all things board games. Sitting around the table today are
Reed, Becky,
Gillean,
and I'm Angela. Today we have first, second, and third impressions of Revive, aka Weird Floating Head Dystopian Good Times. But first, what's bringing us joy?
Well, what's bringing us collective joy is that last weekend we took a little bit of a road trip and went to the Pacific Northwest Game Swap that was hosted by the Board Game Ambassador, Verla, and Charlie. And I'm sure a few other people that helped put it on.
Yeah, the Board Game Swap is something that I've been curious about. I heard about it somewhat recently just based on the Facebook pages, but it's apparently something that happens annually in Seattle or Washington as a whole. I think during June each year. And it's something that I think the collective board gaming community here in Oregon wanted to bring to Oregon as well. And so this was the first time it was brought to Oregon, hosted in Lebanon, Oregon. And yeah, it was fairly small overall, but I thought it was a great time. That was my first time attending a board game swap of really any size, aside from like a garage sale at a small board game shop in Montana. So yeah, it was a good time. It was great to actually talk with people that have shared interest. I feel like that's something I'm somewhat lacking aside from this group. I'm not very outgoing socially, so going to our local board game stores game nights is something I don't really do. So it was good.
We got there, we picked a table in the corner, we set up all of our games. Angela brought games, Gillean and I brought games, and waited for people to show up. There were a ton of vendors. I was surprised. Like, we filled the space really well, and I think a lot of the vendors were the shoppers. There were quite a few people in the morning, and then we thought maybe there'd be like a lunch rush, but it just never quite picked up after the morning. But people were excited, and there were some people walking around with like totes as they were buying board games, which was great.
I think with a kind of slower number of people coming in, it gave us an opportunity to talk more with other vendors, and we got to meet a lot of people from where we live and nearby towns, and that was, I think, my favorite part.
I hate people most of the time, and that was and that was a thing that I was kind of complaining about lovingly, I guess, before we were going. But I really appreciated as people, if they like stepped a little too close to our table, they were like clearly looking at our stuff and like close enough to engage with. Angela would ask them what games they have been enjoying lately, and I really did enjoy those moments with people. It was nice to talk about the thing that we all enjoy and to either like be like, ooh, that's a game we should look into, or like, oh yeah, that game is so good. And two of the people, Hannah and Lauren, they talked to us for quite a while. We had a great conversation, and they had said one of their favorite games was Cockroach Poker. And I got excited because I heard Shut Up and Sit Down talk about it. They love that game. And I kept thinking about buying it. I was like, oh, we should get this game. But I just never quite did it. And then Lauren held up their hand, was like, wait a second, walked away, went to another table nearby, bought the game, and brought it back over to us and handed it over. It was so awesome.
Yeah, I loved that a whole bunch, getting to talk to people about their favorite games. There were so many to choose from. People mentioned this game called Loot Abduction, which we saw around the shelves, Cascadia, Splendor, Canvas, Cat in the Box, games I hadn't heard before, like Botanics, Mexica, Droll Polter. And I thought that was really cool to be able to engage with people and they light up when they're talking about their favorite game. And because we were also buyers, I went over and I saw a copy of Nana, which I already own because I have talked about it a whole bunch. And it was a first edition directly from the Tokyo Game Market. And we got to talk to the vendor at the table. She was so wonderful. She owned so many copies of Nana. And I love seeing these little groups because the dynamics are kind of like ours. They were giving her a really hard time about how much she loved that game. But then she talked about Nana Christmas and the aspect with the presents. And the copy that was on the shelf was only $8. And I thought it would be a really good car copy. And she had warned me like that it wasn't going to be the same. But when we were talking to Hannah and Lauren, we were like, have you played Nana? And they were like, no. And we like we like bullied them into playing with us. We're like, you have to play this game, guys. And that was just such a delight. Like, I think I would have really loved if there was some aspect of playing games at the swap. So we pulled our little like card table over and we made them sit down and play, and it was a hoot and a half. And they were like, we really love this game. And I remember like us trying to find that game. So before they left, I just pulled out the copy that I had just bought and was like, oh my God, guys, here, like, I hope you go and play this game. And so they were really enthusiastic about it. But what I loved that they had said, which blew my mind, is that they only play a lot of games one time only. And I was like, what? No way. Like, how is that even possible?
So their response to that, because I said, well, that is an expensive habit, they said that their local library in the Lebanon-Corvallis area has over 300 games.
Yeah, board game sharing and being able to do that was kind of like, I was like, oh my gosh, how is that possible? And I think it's OSU library has it. And just being able to go to your library, I really suggest if you have a local library who checks out things like that, put in a request for them to order something, or like encourage them to start a lending library like that.
Well, I did not end up selling any games, but I did end up buying a lot of games that were on my list of games that I was interested in, and bought Apiary with the expansion new, which is really exciting. I bought World Wonders, Splendor Duel, Draftosaurus, Skull, and Love Letter. And I'm really excited that I have all of those.
All games that we own, by the way.
Well, you just introduced me to really good games.
It's true. You play with a lot of different people. And so I think you're going to get a lot of plays out of those games.
Or try to play with a lot of different people, but then they shut you down.
Aww.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Just your parents.
I know, but then I saw that my dad followed us on Instagram today, and I was like, oh, that's great. And I was like, we've been doing this for like 7 or 8 months, and he's just now following us on Instagram. Yeah.
Also, I love that your dad's on Instagram. But if he ever listens to the podcast, he'll know that he never plays games with you when we talk about it.
I think he knows that deep down anyway. I am a little bit concerned. World Wonders, we had a play the other night, Becky, Angela, and I love that game so much, but it just has a little bit more setup and rules than I think that, maybe will come to the table at my own house, but I'm hoping other people will play it with me.
Yeah, World Wonders out of that whole list was the game. I was at the booth and you were like, I think a new table had come up that I hadn't seen, because vendors would come in periodically. We had to be up really early to make the drive and get there. So we were some of the first. And once you were set up, you kind of wandered around. Then more vendors would come and you'd be like, okay, I'm going to sneak away and go like look at stuff. And I think a new vendor had popped up where you had gotten that and you came back with it. And when I saw it, I was like, oh, that's a game I would have bought. Because the only game I bought was Nana, and then I actually didn't come home with that game. So actually, zero sum, I didn't bring anything back with me. But World Wonders would have been a game. I do agree the setup is a little more, but like not enough. And I think the most confusing part, because it's kind of polyomino with these really cool wonders from the world that you then place, which are beautiful, like little minis. The production value is great there. The sidewalk connection, I think, is just the hardest, and being like, you have to do this. But I think we'll get a lot of plays with it in our other game group.
Well, I think out of all of those games, the game that I've probably played the most, although I've been playing BGA adaptations, is Draftosaurus. I hadn't played that before and was really hemming and hawing. And Gillean and I were talking. I was like, is it worth $8? And you said it was. So I am very glad that I got that game. It's very cute.
That game is great. I'm excited. Have you played it with Burks yet?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I say Burks, like, as little kids will enjoy it, but also adults really enjoy it. It's fun. I'm fascinated, Gillean, because you had high hopes of selling all of these really expensive Kickstarters. What was your process, as I think in the middle you decided to mark games down, and then after the sale you immediately went to the board game store with them? So what was that like? Did it fulfill that niche of getting rid of games for you?
I was definitely able to sell a few games, not as many as I would have liked. I think it wasn't as well attended as I had hoped, and there weren't as many buyers, I think, as I had hoped. But I kind of went there with just a fool's hope that I'd be able to sell these Kickstarter games there. They were pretty well priced. I think I priced them about what I paid or a little bit less, and they're definitely more on the secondary market. Like if you go to Board Game Geek, the store there, they sell them for a lot more generally than I priced them. So I'd hope, but kind of in the middle of the day before as it was petering off, I was like, I might just knock $10, $20 off just to see if it sells, and that enticed somebody to come by and actually buy my copy of Distilled, which was the Kickstarter version. And so that felt good. All in all, Becky and I didn't make a whole lot of money, but it was nice to get 4 or 5 games off of our to sell list. But certainly when we got back to Eugene, we brought them to our local game store and put 5 of them up for sale there, see if they sell. I didn't bring any Kickstarter games there, though, because those are a little bit harder. They have playmats, and so that's always an interesting thing, trying to figure out how do you put it on a shelf with playmat or otherwise combine it with the playmat when you sell it at a game store.
Do either of you have experience selling on eBay and packaging things?
Yeah, I have sold a few things on eBay before. I definitely buy a lot of stuff on eBay to try and get stuff used. So I would be happy to to help you with that.
Perfect. Yay.
Yeah. It was interesting. People were there, I think, for the community, I think, to see what other people had. There were definitely a lot of people who were trying to get rid of those Kickstarter games, and that was what seemed a little bit hard is when you look around the room and 3 or 4 people have the same game that you were trying to sell. But I came home with a lot of loot, which was really great. But it was such a fun day.
Yeah, the people connection was awesome. But I also agree, you could see a pattern when you went around. There were some games that just were at a lot of tables, including our own. Copies of Splendor were abundant, as well as weirdly Frosthaven and Gloomhaven, big boxes. And I wonder if that spoke to, hey, we went through it once and that's all we needed, or I didn't get through it and that's why it's here. And what I thought was actually even harder is, I think at our table, there was a Kickstarter version of something which priced it really high, but then you would go to another table and you would see what looked like the same game for a way, way, way lower price. And you're like, oh, but that's not the Kickstarter edition. There's so much nuance around that. And even when you opened up Splendor or King of Tokyo, and it had it's sleeved and it's in a custom box and it had all of these extras, it was hard to highlight that because so many people brought kind of the same games or games I'd never heard about that then didn't go in the auction at the end. People were like, I'm not willing to buy that game for $1, which I thought was kind of sad. I also didn't buy any of them, so then maybe I'm sad.
I think being at the table, I noticed that a lot of people were more interested in the lighter games or the smaller games rather than the heavy games that were kind of coming through as, I don't know if you call them audience members or people that weren't necessarily vendors. They were coming to check it out. I would say that the lighter games were definitely what people were picking up more.
I think the funniest thing that I overheard at the board game sale was somebody across the table from us buying a game and said, I can't wait to look at this game on my shelf.
For 6 months.
Revive is a 2022 release from Aporta Games. It plays 1 to 4 players and is designed by Helger Meister, Kjørgen Amstrand, Elias Suisund, Anna Werlemund, and the art is by a number of artists including German Bung, Martin Mohet, Dan Roth, and Jesse Toffler. It retails for $80 and there's a 2023 expansion, Call of the Abyss. Gillean, how do we play Revive?
In Revive, you take on the role of a tribe leader and lead your tribe to explore the frozen earth 5,000 years after everything was destroyed. Each player starts with asymmetric powers and citizens associated with your tribe. These take the form of citizen cards that you use for actions, a tribe board that has specific powers that you can unlock as the game progresses, and also custom machines and upgrades that you can apply to those machine boards. The main goal of the game is to reach and populate the ancient sites on the surface of the earth. That includes building cities to advance your machine board and technologies, and also populating ancient cities to gain resources or gain benefits from that as well. The game takes place over an indefinite number of rounds, and the game end is triggered by ancient artifacts being collected as a whole. So once all of the ancient artifacts have been collected amongst the different players, the game end is triggered, and the player with the most victory points wins. So on a player's turn, they're going to take 2 actions or hibernate. So the actions that a player can take is to play a citizen card on their machine board, and you can play your citizen cards for either the top or bottom ability. So they have multi-use cards. The top and bottom have different abilities that you'll trigger depending on where you play them on your machine board. Alternatively, you can explore as an action and flip over frozen tiles on the surface of the earth to rediscover what resides beneath the ice. That can be cities, it can be water, bodies of water, or it can be forests or mountains or some other terrain that you'll discover. The third action you can take is populate. And so populate allows you to place one of your workers into a city, an ancient city that you've uncovered through the explore action or that is exposed at the beginning of the game. That'll allow your tribe to develop asymmetric abilities as you progress along your tribe board. The fourth and final action you can take is to build a factory. And so when you build a factory, that is going to essentially trigger movement along the machine board and allow you to progress along the 3 different colored tracks on your machine board. And that will potentially trigger the ability to gain specific unique machines that you'll have on your board that you can then use as the game progresses to trigger other additional actions. Or it can allow you to collect an artifact, which are one of the ways that are the main way that the game end will be triggered. Alternatively, instead of taking 2 actions, if you choose, you can have your tribe hibernate. This is going to allow you to take back all the cards that you've discarded throughout your turn, and that will make up the new citizen deck that you have available to you, or the suite of cards that you have available to you to play on the next turn. As you play your turns, you're going to develop your machine board, your individual technologies associated with your tribe, and use your unique abilities to repopulate the surface of the earth and get the most victory points, hopefully, to win the game. And one of the unique aspects of the game is really progressing along that machine track, as I mentioned before, because that'll unlock a lot of unique abilities that you can use through using energy tokens, essentially, to trigger those different abilities. And as you progress along the machine board and also your tribe board, you're going to unlock progress tokens. And progress tokens are going to kind of populate the progress track that each player has in front of them. That will unlock potentially additional artifacts or additional energy tokens that you can use to use your abilities. But most importantly, it's going to give you endgame victory points. So the further along you progress along your progress track, you are going to score more victory points at the end of the game. And the artifacts that you collect throughout the game are also going to provide multipliers for victory points based on different conditions that you have from an objective card that you collected at the very beginning of the game. So on that objective card, it's going to tell you what you're going to score for every white artifact you have, every orange artifact you have, and every purple artifact you have. So a certain player, as the game progresses, might try to monopolize purple artifacts in order to gain the higher multiplier for whatever they're trying to score individually. And those objectives are private objectives that nobody else knows about. And so at the end of the game, you're going to look to see how many points you've scored based on the progress track and your artifacts, and also in the corners of the main board, if you've managed to populate one of the corners, you're going to have another end game scoring condition. So you add up all those, and whoever has the most victory points wins.
Gillean and I have talked about this game a couple of times. It's come up as a joy game, and I'm pretty sure we've said this before too, but after the first time we played it, we were like, oh, let's play this again. And then we went to bed and we left the game set up and we played it that morning before we went to work. Like, It was so exciting. The player board is so fun, that machine track, because there are 3 different colors that you are getting, like Gillean was explaining, by putting down the buildings, and you're just marching up each and they overlap each other. So you have to get 3 in one color and 7 in the other color in order to unlock a spot. And it's just it's fun and satisfying. Like it's not a puzzle, but it's kind of like you have your own little puzzle in front of you that you're working on. And it's satisfying that you're not just unlocking like a base ability. You then get to look at options and choose like which ability you want to put in there. So I love that track, which also what I said before is when I first saw the game, I was like, this looks dumb. That looks overcomplicated. We do not need this game, Gillean. But I am so glad you bought it.
Gillean knows best.
I agree. I like the drafting of the abilities. Some of them are just on the board, and you get this little lightning bolt that can then activate something on that machine board. And then when you take a refresh action, all your lightning bolts come, and you can get more lightning bolts throughout the game. But I like the draft element of that because there's a token covering the space, and then you move the token to the left side of your kind of board. This game is kind of a beast for your own personal player board because you have 2 that you're working on. So I like that it scores you points, and the more things you unlock, the more points you get at the end of the game. But those little circles, like the gray ones, the yellow ones, being like, okay, I'm going to snag one of these, it does this. It's kind of a fight to draft those first, but it just depends what track you're going down.
I really enjoy a lot of aspects of this game. This is one of my favorite games, but I think everything that works together about it is just so appealing to me. Becky talked about not the progress track, but the machine board and advancing along those tracks. The main way you advance along those tracks is by populating the main board, which is itself kind of an area control aspect because people are trying to get the best spots to advance up the most tracks whenever they place a factory, or to populate a city first because it'll be cheaper for you if you do. Otherwise, you have to pay other people books, essentially, which is one of the 3 or 4 main resources that you can use throughout the game. And so the area control aspect and really succeeding in that will allow you to advance up the track most efficiently, and that'll allow you to get more actions that you can use those lightning bolts to trigger more things on your turn. And so by the end of the game, it just feels like you're just humming along, and it just feels really nice you start from nothing, and then all of a sudden you have all these technologies and all these machines that you can use to kind of develop a strategy and kind of combo off.
I think I'm going to start entering my Read and Terraforming Mars era where I compare games to Brass Birmingham. So that moment you were talking about in Revive is something that I think is very similar to a decision space in my brain when I play Brass. When you flip over a new tile that you've explored, you have to decide how you're orienting that tile, and you're basically either making the best spot to build a house because you're going to get like 3 or 4 different color tracks that you get to go up on. And if that's the last thing you do on your turn, someone's going to build there. They're going to get there because it's too sweet of a spot. And Angela's making a face because I swooped in and stole her very sweet spot that she thought was safe.
It was so many spaces away. It was like 15 spaces away. I was like, there's no way she can get here.
Have you never met Becky or played a game with her?
She will find a way to shank you.
It's true. I had a raven. It helped me. But so there's that moment where you just have to be like, well, I guess I'm just going to make this kind of a crap spot because I don't have the resources to build a house here right now, but I needed to explore to get a card and like move forward. And so I really like that moment of like, oh, can I plan it where I have enough resources to build and explore so I can explore and then make myself a sweet spot and build there.
Yeah, that's the decision space. It's interesting because you only get 2 actions. So if you uncover something because you needed a thing that it's going to give you, but then you can't build, it's really thoughtful about, do I pause and wait and hope nobody else explores there? Or do I just do it and hope that Becky can't move 15 spaces in one turn to shank me? And the answer is she will shank you. Yeah.
It's just like beer in Brass Birmingham. Will Angela use my beer? Yes, she will. Every time.
Every time.
You cannot leave beer. Mm-hmm. Anybody will use it. It's not safe.
And that's the part is that when you flip this tile, That's kind of how you move up the machine tracks, is depending on where you build this house, it will activate, allowing you to move up those tracks. So if you build a small house, you can activate the symbols next to it once. If you build a big house, 2. And you have to move up a track very similar to the White Castle, where you're not actually collecting the physical resources like books or gems or things like that. You are just moving a little token up your amazingly designed dual player board, which is super satisfying. You just move them down. But if you don't got enough stuff, you're going to get in trouble.
Like Gillean talked about the appealing aspect of this game, there is so much in this game that works for me. I love a post-apocalyptic theme. Like, that is one of my favorite genres of any type of media. And I love a race, and I feel that this game is a race in all different directions. You're racing for the end game, you're racing for the best spot on the player board, and you're trying to move up these tracks to enable an engine. The colors are amazing. It's these bright neon colors that really do feel like you're emerging out of the ice or something like that, and you're not expecting the board to have like a bright blue and a neon yellow, and it is fantastic.
The thing, and this is my only kind of downside about the production of this game, is that you have these citizen cards that allow you to do something, and they're double-sided, so you can put it one way to activate one thing or another way to get a different resource. And there's a lot of building and comboing that you try to figure out for that. My only kind of piece around that is there are, I think, 4 different citizens. There's like a robot and a like bald human, and you're like, cool. It kind of gives me Nar vibes in that the colors are different, but the images are the same. I wish that for a game of this production level, there were more images on those cards other than just like the 4 that they then just kept repeating over and over again and changed the colors. I thought that would have brought a lot more of that apocalyptic feel if we got to see so many different, and it's just little, it doesn't affect anything, it's just a wish.
No, I definitely wrote like the 2 areas of weakness that I see in the design are those cards. I think that they're just kind of meh. I mean, I love the multi-use aspect, but the design, it doesn't necessarily go with the rest of them. They're really like white space backgrounds and kind of just, I just feel like they don't really go. And then I also think that the end game objectives where they have the different color artifacts are also kind of meh.
Yeah, the endgame artifacts, as I noted at the very beginning of this podcast, are kind of like floating alien heads. And so it doesn't tie in for me as much thematically that they're like, get these things, they're multipliers. And I was like, why are they alien heads? This is weird.
Yeah, it was weird because when I first played the game, it's like, oh, I'm going to get this skull. And it turns out it's not a skull, it's an artifact, but it's a skull. But I will say to the point about having all the same art, I mean, you know, inbreeding's a thing. They all look the same for a reason. You're all stuck under Earth together.
And the robots are just duplicated.
Yeah,
and that's
exactly.
Why yeah.
I've never really paid attention to the art on the cards, so I can totally see why you both think that, and I agree with it. I feel like I just said that weirdly. Why do you think that? But I agree with that. I do think it's like simple enough that I just like don't even really notice the art on there. I'm just paying attention to the resource, which in that sense is kind of nice. It's not like really busy, but I do think they could have made it better and just like gone up a notch. And there is that one, I'm going to try to remember to post a picture of this, but there's that one character that has, I think it's the food resource above their head, and it looks like they're wearing a stupid hat. That one I do always notice the person.
For the most part, one thing I love about the game is the flow of the game, but the one gripe I have with it is the end game seems to come on really fast, and it's a very sudden game end trigger that it's sort of hard to see. I mean, you get so absorbed in your engine, you're not necessarily paying attention to every single person around the table. But I find that once somebody gets their engine going, they start getting skulls very rapidly, or those alien artifacts that trigger the end game. And so there have been a couple games we played where it's just like, we're all humming along, we're all exploring, and then all of a sudden the last artifact is taken. You're like, oh no, that's it. I have one more turn.
It was probably Becky taking all the purple ones. So nobody else could get them.
I was going to say, interesting, Gillean, that you say that, because whenever we play, I feel like I'm doing my own thing, and then I look up and I go, where did all the alien artifacts go?
Yeah, I know. I'm surprised they're all gone. I'm like, oh, I guess I took them all.
Yes,
So.
you did.
Well, and that gets into the thing that I like this game. I think it's a good game. I think it's worth the $80 production value for the dual layer boards. I mean, $80 is really expensive for a game, but I do think they tried really hard to make it worth every penny of it. Where my gripe comes in is kind of tied into what you said, Gillean, of I feel like whilst I like this game, I would never turn down a play of this game. I think that it feels like at times a really long game and then a really quick ending. So I've only played it 3 times at 3 and 4 player counts, but I sometimes like during the turns, I'm like, wow, it's like really long until it gets back to my turn. And while there is kind of a fight for the middle and resources, I'm never so engaged with the middle board trying to plot out what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like waiting. Okay, it's my turn. I'm going to do these 2 things. Especially if you take a refresh action, you're like, oh, okay, cool. I'm just going to put everything back, and then you're waiting again. And then the end comes so quickly that you're like, oh gosh, okay, there it goes. And so it takes you on a roller coaster of time. And time is my biggest thing, where I think this game goes a little too long for my enjoyment.
The first time that we played this game, I fell in love with it. I said, I want to play this again. This game is for me. And then we didn't play it for 6 months. And then it was a rocky play where we were looking up rules a lot and trying to decipher some things. I do think that there were a lot of rules look up that weren't just us not remembering how to play. There were some things where either the symbology wasn't clear, or, you know, there was an area where Becky and I both got caught in sand not being terrain. And so we had to go back and kind of back out because we had made moves thinking that sand covered terrain. But I think that this is, if we played it more, it would go faster. So we should play it more.
I agree with both of those statements. And you brought up the symbology, and I do think that this game does have some symbology that just doesn't make sense if you haven't played it for a while. And I think if you did play it consistently, you'd be like, oh yeah, I remember what that does. But for me, it's especially anything that involves your cards, and like you have the resting area where you have the play area, you have the area on your board where like the active cards are that you've used, and then the resting area where you use those last turn, or you had an ability that let you put them in there. But there are some symbols that are like, put a card that you've already played into the resting area, or take a card out of the resting area. And I never remember which symbol means what.
Yeah, a nice player aid would have helped, I think, with some of those weird symbols or commonly missed things. You know, a game like Nucleum has a really great player aid that goes along with it that I feel really comfortable using. And this game would have been helpful because I constantly feel like I'm turning to Gillean being like, what does this token mean? What does this card mean? And that could be just needing to play it more.
Yeah, it would be nice to have a little card with that. I think the back of the rule book, the last page, has the symbols and their meanings, but there are a couple of ones that aren't on there that are specific to the player boards that you have to then open up the rule book and go there. But is there one on the back of your action card? Gillean just shrugged his shoulders after he moved closer to the mic. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I think like a little guide would be nice. Just so that's also something you could be looking at on your turn, like while it's not your turn and you are figuring out what you're going to do. I guess we could make an illegal copy and shrink it down so we all have our own little guide.
I'm sure somebody on Board Game Geek has made this that we could just print off.
Probably.
We could also try flipping over the card first to see. I couldn't imagine that you wouldn't have that.
Oh, I do think... I don't know. Okay, I'm going to say, I think it's interesting. So everybody has a regular card that has the actions on it that you do, and there are 2 brown cubes that you use to like plan your actions and show that you've done them. And there's just the 2. So like I have them, I put them on my card, I do my actions, and then I pass them to the next person, which is usually Reed from me. and then Reed does it, and then Reed passes, and then you just pass those 2 cubes around. And I always thought it was interesting that there weren't enough cubes for everybody to have their own, or like you have your player color cubes for that, because the brown ones, like Reed's complained about them a lot. It's just really bland compared to everything else.
But I think it helps in terms of tracking player order and player turns specifically, because then once you're done with your second action, you've resolved it, you're like, okay, I'm done. I pass it on to the next player to signify that it's their turn. So
It's probably like the best application of player movement that's integrated into the game that we've seen.
Yeah, I agree. And so even though I said what I just said, I also agree with that and think it could be useful in other games that we play where you don't always realize it's your turn or somebody doesn't tell you. So it is nice that you have to be like, oh, here you go. But sometimes we also forget that.
This was a case where we had to do that in a previous game. I don't know, it was like some meeple or something that we passed around to denote like you were done and it's the next person's turn. That was a long time ago. I don't remember what game that was.
It was probably just to help me figure out when it was my turn.
I know. I watched that little card that goes around with these 2. Also, the cubes aren't. Design aesthetic is really great.
They're unremarkable. They're literally painted brown wood cubes that are maybe like an inch or so.
I don't know why they didn't do something really fun branding wise, but maybe you just run out of money at the end of a game, or to be fair, you're trying to get the cost down because it's $80 and you're like, cool, you get dual layer player boards, but boring cubes.
Or maybe you're just post-apocalyptic civilization coming to Earth, and all you have is like rocks that you can use.
Yeah, but rocks would have also been interesting, but they wouldn't stack as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. But that's to circle all the way back that's my thing is I watch that little card go around to be like, okay, Gillean's done. I mostly didn't care what Gillean did on his player board. Okay, now it's Becky's turn. Okay, Becky took a head. Great. Becky has too many heads. And then now it's Reed's turn. And then Reed's like, I think I'm going to do this, but maybe I'll do this. I'm like, when will these cubes get back to me? So
it's really me. I'm the weak spot.
It was a correlation that I was like, do I just feel this way? Because I think, like you said, Reed, we hadn't played in a while, so it was rough. But then we played a 3-player game because I'm like, is the best player count 3? But maybe the best player count is actually 2. Like maybe it just plays so differently.
It could be that the best player count is 3, but Gillean is one of those 3. We struggled a little.
Yeah, the game comes a lot faster when I play.
Oh wow! Sick burn.
I think that the last couple times we played with an expansion or expanded rules where the recharge the switch enables you to be able to steal the powers or use the powers off of someone else's mat, and then that card then goes into their discard hibernation chamber. So apologies if you already explained that, but that adds a level of like interactivity between players that I enjoy. And Becky's always like, oh, but this is good for you. You might have access to this. And I'm like, but you did this to me.
Yeah, we haven't played with all of the features of Call of the Abyss expansion. In fact, we have to constantly be pulling out the tokens from the box that are the expansion ones. So that's something we could certainly explore more and see how it changes the game.
We definitely need to just include it next time. I'm tired of pulling out the jellyfish.
It's not difficult. Like I was reading it. It's just an extra track that you go up, and there's some, I don't remember the name, but they're the jellyfish aliens that you encounter that have repopulated the Earth that you occasionally encounter, and so it allows you to move up a track, which gives you more bonuses, and so it doesn't seem difficult.
If you don't think a game is interesting when you say jellyfish alien people populate the world, then I don't know how come you're not playing this game.
Who is this game for, Angela?
What a great question.
Well, I think it's for a lot of people. It just hit the BGG's Board Game Geek's top 100 of all time, which is pretty impressive.
Considering it only came out a year ago, I think that speaks to the enjoyment that people have gotten out of it in this last year and a half.
Yeah, I feel like it usually takes a game about 3 years to get to the top 100, and so it's interesting that it got there so quickly. The reason why I got into this game was just on a whim, and it was because it generated a lot of buzz at, I think, Essen the year it was released, and I ended up pre-ordering it, thankfully, and I managed to get it, and then it was out of stock for like a year because they did not anticipate the number of people that would want the game. And so This was one of the few instances where I took a chance on a game and it ended up panning out. Became one of my favorites. Brass was the other.
Your whims are good.
It's true.
Most of the time.
I mean, definitely don't listen to me because I was one of those games where I was like, no, Gillean, it doesn't look that good. I don't like it. Like, I remember you watching the Dice Tower videos of it, and I was just like, ugh, not again. Why are you watching this video again?
Yeah, if my memory serves, you felt the same way about Brass Birmingham when I first got it.
Oh.
That-
Becky.
It was so long ago, I don't even remember. But also, I mean, probably because I'm like, guys, my favorite game is about the Industrial Revolution. It's so cool. There's a coal era, and then you pause, you score, and then it's like you go into the other era. No, wait, it's the Canal era first.
Yeah.
It's such a good game.
Explaining that game to other people is weird.
Yeah, somebody had asked me recently, what's your favorite game? I was like, Brass Birmingham. Oh, what's it about? Oh, you're in the Industrial Revolution trying to become the most successful entrepreneur. Okay.
Great. You sound like a nerd. I gotta go. But to your point, Becky, about who this game is for, this is a game that won't enter my collection. To circle back to what you said, Becky, about who this game is for, this game won't be something that I add to my collection. I don't think I love it to that level. I also don't think this is a game for our other board game group. I think this is a little bit crunchier. There's lots of symbology. While the game is beautiful and dual layer boards, and I think is fairly good for board gaming folks who like medium to heavy games. This is a great game to add, but this isn't a game I would introduce to just anybody. The rules over, I still have questions about what all the symbology means and what connects to what, and we're having to look in the rule book, so I wouldn't feel comfortable teaching this to a lot of folks. But again, I wouldn't turn down a play. I like it enough to play it and to think about it. But is it going to be in my top 10 for me? Probably not.
It's definitely in my top 10. It's probably in my top 5. And I am venturing to say that it might even be in my top 3.
Ooh. Whoa.
I love this game. I love this game so much. But will I buy it? I would love to own this game. But currently, I think we need more plays under the belt before I feel like I could confidently teach this game to other people. And I think it's an investment in teaching, too. It's not going to be an easy play. I would say the first time playing would probably be like 3 to 4 hours if you're teaching slowly, which is what I do. So, yeah, I'm not ready to buy it yet.
I definitely think about our friends who are more like into medium light games, and I don't think they would necessarily enjoy this game. I think it would just be a little bit more than what they want in a board game, which is totally fine. But I do think that for people who enjoy like a crunchier game, or even like medium game players who are like crunchy curious, I think it's a really great game.
Thank you for listening to Board Game Homies. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts and drop us a line at our Instagram page at Board Game Homies. See you next time.
I just want a TM trademark, Crunchy Curious. I don't know what Angela was going to say just now, but like, Becky, that's so good.
Why is Angela shaking her head with her face on her palm? Or
Because
her
she
palm on her
wishes she had
face.
said Crunchy Curious.
It's on my Tinder bio. I'm crunchy curious, ... about board games.
I'm not wrong though, right? Like, that's the kind of person who's going to like that game.
You're spot on, Becky.
Don't patronize me.